conversation with Detroit City Council President Brenda Jones. I think for those who are viewing, you can tell this is probably the safest Zoom meeting in the city this morning, because we have all of our esteemed law enforcement and police oversight members with us here today. Just before we get started, though, I'm going to take a little personal point of privilege and say to Sheriff Benny Napoleon, Sheriff, I am so happy that our beloved brother, big brother, Hilton Napoleon, is back on the scene. He is posting his spiritual words of wisdom every day on Facebook. And I mean, we prayed hard for him. He fought hard and he's back. We are so happy and proud that he was able to beat that dreaded COVID-19.
Well, thank you, my dear longtime friend, Stephen. We appreciate that. And I want to just personally thank all of you on behalf of the family for all your prayers and lifting up my family and my brother. He is doing phenomenally well. He has exceeded everyone's expectations when it came to his time for recovery. So he's doing well, and he really is looking forward to getting back out and seeing everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate that. And that was one of our success stories for COVID. I read his explanation on Facebook, and I have to be honest, by the time I got to the end of it, tears were dropping down like crazy, because I know your brother, you know, he's a fighter. He's a strong man.
Yeah, he's
so
tough.
Yes, he is. We reached the 9 o'clock hour, and I know that very, very shortly, our council president is going to be joining us. I know that Chief Logan is getting his technical situation together, but I'm going to go ahead and welcome everyone to this coffee and conversation. And what I'd like to say is this. There's been so much talk, a lot of protesting, demonstrations going on all around law enforcement and criminal justice activity. Here in Detroit, and I was gonna call you Chief Napoleon because back in the day you were Chief Napoleon. Sheriff, you know that our Detroit Police Department has gone through a lot of transformation, as does former police officer and now chair of the Board of Police Commissioners, Chairman Willie Bell. Willie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm doing fine. Good to see everyone.
Good to see you too. We have gone through a lot of transformation, and now we're at a point where, with all of the attention that we have a great opportunity to improve what we do. I personally believe that we have the best police department in the land, in Detroit Police Department. And at this point, I would like to turn the floor over to Madam President Brenda Jones. Madam President, I have not formally introduced all of our guests yet. We were having a little bit of personal conversation. We did talk to Sheriff Napoleon about the rebirth of his great brother, Hilton. And I'd like to turn it over to you, and you can take it away from here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to some and announce to others, Detroit City Council President Brenda Jones.
Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Good morning. It is always an honor to see you all this morning. I mean, and sometimes we take it for granted that we're going to see each other, but with the way this COVID-19 has been, we cannot take anything for granted this morning. And it is truly an honor for me to see you all this morning. Again, to everyone, I am your Detroit City Council President, Brenda Jones, and I am joining you, and you are joining me for coffee and conversation. I say coffee, tea, water, whatever your favorite beverage is, great conversation this morning. We are also live on Facebook, as I'm sure everyone has said, and you can join us on Facebook if you'd like to see us at www.facebook.com/CP Brenda Jones. So let me just say, exactly 4 weeks ago, Councilmember Janae Ayers and I hosted another coffee and conversation on criminal justice reform. Since that time, we have learned about the killing of Elijah McClain in 2019. We heard the complete audio video of George Floyd's killing, and Breonna Taylor's killers still have not been arrested. Protests urging police accountability for these and other killings continue in Detroit and around the country. I believe that law-abiding protests can lead to change. In June, I introduced a resolution that passed unanimously to support enhanced police reform policies throughout the state of Michigan, the city of Detroit, and across the nation. My chief of staff has already introduced everyone, but it gives me an honor to say the names. So I'm gonna say the names again, and that is none other than our Wayne County Sheriff, Benny Napoleon.
How you doing, Madam President?
I am blessed by the best. Thank you for being here with us this morning. Also, our retired Detroit Police Chief Chester Logan, and I seen him in the waiting room in. So as he's connecting in, I'm going to introduce none other, and I think everybody know him, Bishop Edgar Vann, the former Detroit Police Commissioner and Michigan Civil Rights Commissioner. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning, Madam President. Happy to be with you.
Happy to have you here with us. Mary Engelman, Interim Director of the Michigan Department of Civil Rights Department. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here.
Happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Madam President.
Willie Bell, Chair of the Detroit Police Commission. Good morning, Mr. Bell.
Good morning, President Jones. It's such a pleasure to be in the mix of all these heavyweights here this morning. Looking forward to the dialogue.
Good to have you with us, Chair Bell. And our latest and newest Police Commissioner, Martin Jones. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam President. It is definitely a pleasure to be here in the company of such great people who look to move and drive our city forward.
And good morning to you as well. Good to have you here with us, and welcome to the Detroit Police Commissioner. Not been able to see you, so welcome, Commissioner Bell. I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a promotion already.
You have that beard.
Put Bell up to your name, Commissioner Bell. I'm looking at your name. And then none other than our retired Detroit Police Chief and Highland Park retired Chief Chester Logan. Good morning, Chief Logan.
Good morning, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just awesome.
Okay.
So all right.
Morning to all.
Good morning.
Good morning. And then also, I see our interpreter. Good morning, Miss Sheila. Good to have you with us this morning. As you know, there are calls for City Council to defund the police, but that's something I can never support. I know the dedicated work of Chief Craig, Deputy Chief Bettison, and so many others, Assistant Chief, our first Chief. There's just so many others that do so much work, and the men and women in blue who put their lives on the line every single day just for us. However, the one thing I do realize is that just like in every other profession, there are a bad apple, a bad police officer. That is why my resolution that I put forward supports police reform. And that reform will root out the bad officers, provide training for officers, develop methods to recognize mental health complications, return residency requirements for officers. Like most things, policies that promote reform, they're not new. The Detroit Police Department saw its initial reform when Coleman Young was elected as Detroit's first Black mayor in 1973. He then began to reform the department by hiring a Black chief and promoting Black officers to command staff. So I'm just gonna start with some roundtable questions, and I'm gonna start with you, Chief Logan, if you don't mind. You joined the police department in the late 60s. So you know what it was like before Mayor Young's reforms. Additionally, you ran the department's risk management division, and eventually you became the police chief under Mayor Bean. Can you tell us some of the similarities, if there were any, that existed between then and now for the cause for reform?
Well, Madam President, probably the biggest issue I see is when I first came on, there was almost a total lack of Black supervisors as well as Black police officers. Detroit was severely underrepresented in the Black community in terms of Black officers, male and female, and executive officers, sergeants and lieutenants. One of the things that the mayor, Coleman Young, brought at the time was something called affirmative action, which allowed Detroit to be more represented in terms of Black supervisors and Black police officers. That's probably one of the hallmark things ever done in Detroit's police history. And it laid the groundwork for, as you said earlier, the acquisition of Black police officers, more Black supervisors, and it gave you something to strive for. Because prior to Coleman Young, you could just about forget, advancing in the ranks. And he wanted to make it so it was more representative of not only Blacks, but of females also. So he was a total trailblazer. He didn't get a lot of support, but he was determined to do what he did. And I am so grateful. And it shows in the city today.
Thank you for that, and I am truly also grateful. Sheriff Napoleon, you joined the Detroit Police Department in the mid-70s, and you also rose through the ranks to be appointed Chief of Police by Mayor Archer. Now, everybody knows our Sheriff Napoleon, and you are a national leader in training police to diffuse potential violent situations. My resolution calls for reform policies that promote techniques to de-escalate confrontations. How important do you think training is for officers to be able to handle intense situations and maintain control of their actions?
It's critical. One of the things that we say in training is that you react under pressure the way you are trained to react. And it becomes instinctive. It becomes just a natural thing for you to do. So if you are trained to de-escalate and you are trained consistently to de-escalate, then that will be your first reaction to a confrontation. I am a strong proponent of training. One of the issues, though, that happens as budgets get tight and as money starts to evaporate, one of the first things that goes by the wayside in police agencies is training because the funds are not there. So I think as we look at reform and in changing the way that police officers react in certain situations, I think we need to recognize that the funds for this training needs to be made available, because as officers are trained, they are taken away from their normal assignment, which cost a loss of their services to the community while they are training, and then the cost of the training itself. But if we're really looking at reform, training has to be at the top of the list of one of the very many things that need to happen in law enforcement to have a change in people's response to the community.
Okay, I'm taking my own notes, you guys, because I have the experts on the line. So I got my pen, I got my paper, I'm taking my own notes from the experts. Thank you for that, Sheriff Napoleon, and I'm going to come back to that. But I want to run to you, Bishop Vann, and I think I'm going to call you the public safety preacher. Bishop Vann, because you've served on the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners under 2 mayors. You've hosted Safe Surrender, you've hosted expungement fairs, gun buybacks, and everything at Second Ebenezer. You've even worked with the Michigan State Police to recruit more Detroiters. In the late 1980s, 61% of DPD, Detroit Police Department, was African Americans. Today, that number is 55%. And an article from last year said 3 out of 4 officers do not live in the city. I recently sponsored a resolution calling for the return of residency. Do you think police officers should look like and live in the communities they serve, and why, if you do?
I most certainly do, Council President. I did not support the loss of residency as it relates to police officers in the city, and it's for this reason. Not that I don't believe that anyone has the right to live where they want to live or to take their families where they'd like to take their families. I just believe that I'm old enough to remember a day where in the same community, the policeman, the preacher, the doctor, the lawyer lived basically in the same community, maybe on a different street, maybe on a different level, but we all had the same commonality of understanding the community at large and being totally vested in the community itself. I know that there were other factors involved back in the years when residency was removed. I had the distinct honor and pleasure of working with then Chief Benny Napoleon and so many others who are on the line in those times. But I do believe that residency is extremely important. It also gives a sense of context to the officer, along with the training that Sheriff Napoleon has described. Training is one thing, context is another. And I think that the context and the fabric and the culture of the community is so important in law enforcement in terms of relating to the citizens of the city of Detroit.
I truly agree with you. I could not agree with you more. And also, I think it also helps the kids as they're growing up. It gives them that mentorship to say, I want to be just like Sheriff Napoleon when I grow up, or I want to be just like Chief Logan when I grow up. It gives the kid as they're growing up mentorship. So I agree with you for all of the reasons you gave as well as that. Director Engelman, it is believed by some that civil rights advocates should be leading the charge for police reform. My resolution advocates for police reform policies that identify potential implicit biases. How can the Michigan Department of Civil Rights work with law enforcement on this and on methods of police reform?
I have to say that, and I just have to give a shout out for the city of Detroit, who started our first ALPAC. The ALPAC is the Advocates and Leaders for Police and Community Trust. And that is something that we have 10 across the state of Michigan, ranging from Detroit all the way down to Battle Creek, Flint, Benton Harbor, Grand Rapids, Saginaw, Jackson, Lansing, Holland, and Traverse City. This group consists of surrounding local and county, state, tribal, and federal law enforcement agencies, along with elected officers, elected officials, to come together and address the issues that impact them in their communities, in their homes. And that is something that we have been doing. And really, like I said, Detroit started it in 1995. And so that is something that we have been doing. We have been at the table. In addition to that, we have at Civil Rights have fought for the last 5 years really to be a part of MCOLS. And I'm not certain if all of you gentlemen and Madam President is aware of MCOLS, but it is basically the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. This is what really sets the standards for the policing in the state of Michigan. And part of the legislation that has happened in the legislature is to add this element of really coming in and doing some training. So we have advocated with the executive office and that are now a part of a directive, the EO 2020-121, where we will be sitting at the table with these other law enforcement officers and along with the Attorney General's office to basically set up that training, to set up the standards of policing. I think that's very important. I think that when you hear from some of the, the chiefs here, the biases, that consistency of having training consistently a part of the fabric that we do is going to make a difference. And so that's kind of where we think we're going to have a lot of influence and ability to really do that bias training that needs to happen.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. A lot of good information just given and what you just said, because I'm sure everybody did not know about that.
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff Bell, like Sheriff Napoleon and Chief Logan, you are retired Detroit Police Department employees. It's been said that Detroit could be the model for community policing and civilian oversight. Please tell us about the role that the Detroit Board of Police is playing in establishing policies for police reform.
Thank you, Madam President. As you well know, the Board of Police Commissioners have been around since 1974 under Coleman Young, the mayor of Detroit, and he saw the visionary to appoint 5 individuals from very walks of life, from labor to law, community service, and from the religion community. And that continued over the years. And I hired in 1971, and I had the opportunity to interact with the Board of Police Commission over the years and get elected in 2014. Serving oversight is crucial. We think about all the issues that we're facing now. Detroit has been dealing with those issues. Also with the assistant of the Justice Department in terms of enhancing oversight in that major role. So it's something that we established in terms of, you know, as council, you really impact the budget, but we impact policy along with the chief and the mayor, and there's ongoing issues that we have advocated reform. All the issues we're talking about now, we have played a major part in the policy process. So I'm pleased that we come a long way. We got a long way to go. I think that this is a great opportunity for continuation of reform in so many different areas. It's been highlighted in terms of issues that we're dealing with daily for us. So those issues are before us, and we must seize the moment to advocate police reform, and oversight is crucial. I serve on the National Board of Oversight, and there's now people responding, even in Southern state. You don't have oversight in Southern state. They are responding to the need for oversight. So in Detroit, I think we've been in the forefront of police relationship. And you mentioned these two great chiefs who have served in this capacity. You mentioned Bishop Vann, who has served in this capacity for many, many years. We have really established a foundation. We hope to enhance that. We're working towards that goal and towards the mandate of the city charter of oversight. We have the opportunity now with the Charter Commission to even enhance our effort in terms of dealing with this issue. So I think it's in the forefront. I want to thank you for holding this forum, because it just continues to enlighten people about police reform. Once the protests end, we have to get down to work, and that's what we're doing. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, all right, thank you. And you know, I said we had Chair we had Chair Carter. Well, first we had Chair Bell, we had Chair Carter, and now we have Chair Bell again. So,
yes, ma'am.
you know, you have just so much knowledge and so much information to share. And also, as being a former police department employee, being a former police, you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of information to share as a commissioner.
Thank you.
I want to move on to you, Commissioner Jones. I'm going to say up front, I don't think we related, but you know, I never know. They always say, don't let the Joneses get you down. So we're not going to get anybody down this time, Commissioner Jones. Again, I'm going to just say, I don't think we are related, but you never know who's related to who these days.
So, it's too late to ask my father.
Okay, all right. I always say you all are all my brothers and my sisters anyway. So I love all of you so deeply and so dearly. So on you, Commissioner Jones, I'm going to say, I saved the newest for last. You know, sometimes you hear them say, I saved the best. All of y'all are the best. So I definitely couldn't say I saved the best. If I had to pick the best, they'd have to throw me out the window, because I would be holding on to all y'all, saying all of y'all are the best, and you are the best of the best. You was recently appointed to the Board of Police Commissioners.
Yes.
As a member of Detroit 300 and now the Board of Police Commissioners, and you've seen a lot just being a member of Detroit 300, because Detroit 300 is always there on the scene, always there on the spot, always there to assist. How do you think the community can have a major role in developing policies to establish future police reform?
You know, and thank you so much for the questions that you put before. It's a great question. One of the things that I've been in.
Can't hear you. Yeah. Can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute yourself, Commissioner Jones? We can't hear you.
Madam President, it looks like his.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we hear you now. Okay.
Okay, I apologize about that. One of the things that I've been able to do was to speak directly with the citizens of the city of Detroit and many neighborhoods, because many neighborhoods our organization has been out on foot. We've talked to so many people. I've talked to so many people as being the spokesperson for the organization. So it gives me a unique perspective about how people are feeling about things, even out here now. Being that that situation on 6 Mile and San Juan was close to my home, I felt that I had to go up, and I felt that I had to be a part to see exactly what was going on. So I had a boots on the ground standpoint at that particular point, and what it did was it allowed me to see what happened firsthand. So the information that I have is not information I came by through media sources, Facebook, Twitter, or anything else. So I understood the pulse that the people had. There were bad rumors that were going around, and people were steadily repeating these rumors. And what it was doing was it was igniting our citizens that were out there. And it was something I didn't like to hear. It was something that I did not like to see. But there was nothing that I could do or say at the time because of the mentality of the people that were there. There was nothing I could do or say at the time that could help to dispel, squash, or even settle it down. And I think that all in all, these types of protests and these types of outbreaks are symptomatic of the things that people have been going through in the city of Detroit for their feelings about a lack of law enforcement or mistreatment by law enforcement. And I think that we serve a tremendous role, and we have an opportunity like we've never had before to reverse those feelings. And this is something that we cannot afford to get wrong. We've got to get it right because our future's at stake. We've got to turn around and get our young people involved with city government. We've got to get our young people involved with opportunities out there so that way it's not a situation where the only opportunity is to wake up in the morning with nothing to do. And some of them may even have the inclination to pick up a firearm and see how the day works out. We've got to change that thought. We've got to change that mentality. We've got to get those people in the community that are willing to stand up, to participate actively in forums like this, forums like different meetings that take place around town, where there's mentorship opportunities that may be available for them, but they have to be shown that these things are available to them. And I think that items like that would have a great effect on the future of the policing between the community and between the police departments. We've got to rekindle that relationship. We've got to build upon it because, as you know, our city didn't erupt like so other many cities did. We were known not too long ago as a city that burned itself, which gained international acclaim. But that's been completely turned around because of the involvement of the citizens of the city of Detroit. We're no longer a city that burns itself. So we care, our Detroiters care, and this leadership forum is an excellent way to come together to bring the intellect and the ideas together to help solve the problems that are facing us now.
Okay, thank you so much for adding that. And it happened in the community where I grew up at, community where my mom's house is. I'm still over there quite a bit because, as I said, my mom's house is there. I have family that still lives there. And so I drive through that neighborhood all the time and just looking at some of the things that are going on in that neighborhood. And again, that's where I grew up at. And so I go and I start thinking back on as I grew up in the neighborhood, what was in the neighborhood when I grew up, the things that was there, the businesses that was there, and what the community is like now. And although I was not on 6 Mile in San Juan when that happened, I was not too far. It made a stop, and I was not too far from 6 Mile and San Juan. By the time I was on Livernois, and as I was driving down Livernois, the protesters were marching down Livernois, going to, I guess, the 12th precinct. They might have made it to the 12th precinct by the time I got down Livernois, and I seen the helicopters that were flying above, and I was wondering, well, I thought it was on 6 Mile and Livernois. What's going on Livernois to 7 Mile? Because I was not even aware that they had left that location and was headed toward the 12th precinct. Then I talked to a couple of people, and I was talking to a gentleman, and I said, so what happened? What's going on? Why all these cars? And he said, I was on 6 Mile and San Juan myself. And he said, I was standing out in the crowd, and I seen people go into the store and buy bottles and throw bottles and not knowing where those bottles were going to land, it just bothered me so much because the bottles were coming over the head of people, not knowing if the bottle was going to hit someone in the head. And so I, seeing what was going on, I immediately put something up on Facebook because I knew that we have body cams now, and hoping that body cam was on, hoping that we would get some information. I started making phone calls saying, did the officer have a body cam on? Do we know what happened? Do we know what's going on? And I was told, yes, we do have the video. And I began to say, can you hurry up and get the video out? And then my chief of staff, Stephen, called me, and Stephen said, I'm up at the precinct on 7 Mile and Livernois. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry, on Woodward in 7 Mile. And the protesters are up here. And I said, yeah, I'm trying to get them to hurry up and try to get the video released. I didn't know what had happened, what was going on, but I knew I was hearing too many different stories. And when I say hearing different stories, I was hearing a lot of different stories, not really knowing what had happened, but then saying, I want the video released. I want the video released. So, we talk about blue light, green light, red light. We used to know. We talk about the lights, the blue lights. We talk about the body cam. We talk about the dash cams. Bishop Vann, I'm going to move to you because you've done so much in the neighborhood of policing. Can you talk to me about how you feel about all of this equipment that's out there, the body cam, the dash cam, the blue lights, the green lights, and I say blue lights because we know that there are lights inside of different things, but the green lights that the businesses have, because I even started getting calls from businesses saying, as they were walking down 7 Mile, because like I said, I actually do a lot of business up on Livernois and 7 Mile myself. I frequent those businesses. I was getting calls from the business owners, and I know the police chief Craig released the video, and I think the crowd started dispatching. But can you talk to me as a former police commissioner? What do you feel, and how do you feel about all of the different equipment that is out there?
Well, let's face it, we live in a digital age, and it's important for law enforcement and every other industry, that includes the church, to be attuned and to also be up to date as it relates to the use of technology to bring about better results in whatever we are attempting to do. I was there at the commission table when many of these technological advances were first discussed. I had the opportunity on voting on many of them. I think that it's important that they be used properly. I've had some issues with facial recognition because of what has been shown to be some inequities in the veracity of that particular medium. However, I do believe that, as we saw with our chief and this particular situation that just happened in our community recently, it was that very quick release of that video that really, really helped to quell a lot of misinformation that was out in the community. And so I'm very grateful for the technology. Technology is like anything else. It's like fire. It can warm you up or it can burn you up. It depends on how you use it. And so the proper use of technology for me is the priority that we ought to have in policing and, of course, in law enforcement.
Okay, thank you for that. And You know, I am for some equipment, but I am just not there with the facial recognition as well. And I did go down and I viewed all of the equipment. I viewed what was going on, and I'm just not there either with facial recognition. Chief Logan, you also served in Detroit, and you also served in Highland Park. And I don't know what type of equipment, if you all had started using green light or what you all were using in Highland Park. Can you talk to me about what you see with the usage of all the equipment as well?
Yes, ma'am. I was just sitting here thinking about that situation at San Juan and 6 Mile. I think that if you think about it, one of the best advancements that we've had over the years, over the last few years, has been the camera. And I'm not talking about facial recognition. I'm talking about the in-car cameras and the body cameras, because they don't lie. I mean, I want to know what happened, and I've got visual proof right at my hand to show, oh, this is what happened. So that's, to me, is indispensable. It took the officers, probably in Detroit as well as Highland Park, it took them a number of years to realize that this is not only good for the community, this is good for them. And so I think now you have a lot less resistance to those things. As I said, and as you said, the facial recognition, we didn't have to deal with that because Detroit was dealing with it. And as Detroit went, so did the city of Highland Park. And we don't use facial recognition. We are, in fact, looking at a system whereby businesses can be attached to a system called blue light, where they'll be monitored like a business would monitor a B&E, for B&Es. These are some of the things that we wanted to bring to the community, not as a threat or anything, but as a help. And I applaud just about any kind of technology, because it benefits not only the community, but it benefits officers.
Okay, all right. Sheriff Napoleon, you want to comment on that as well?
Well, as you might recall, I put cameras in scout cars in Detroit over 20 years ago. And I also put them in the cell blocks for the very same reason that Chief Logan said. It's an impartial witness that you can always call on to see what actually happens. So I am supportive of the technology, but the technology has to be used properly, as Bishop Vann said. I think we need to take advantage of all the technology that we can, but the technology just has to be appropriate and used for the appropriate reason.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I don't know if the police commissioners want to add to what we're talking about as far as technology.
Madam President, definitely yes. Technology is on the cutting edge. And as you know, as Sheriff Napoleon mentioned, it's been in use for 20 years in the cars and now on body camera. We have very thorough policy in reference to those two items. But I also want to chime in on facial recognition. As you well know, we arrest hundreds and hundreds of people every day, monthly, and sometimes the witness get it wrong, the victim get it wrong, and we get it wrong, but we don't really just throw out the process. So it's just one tool in the toolbox in terms of facial recognition. If it's used properly, but you always got to have that human element. As you well know, the check and balance got to be there from DPD to the prosecutor office to the judge. There's a process. It's just one tool. And as a Black man, all my life, I've been engaging in the community and law enforcement. I understand the issue of how we've been pretty much dealt with in issues of law enforcement. So we are very conscious about that. That's why we wrote a very strict guideline that we must follow in terms of facial recognition. So technology is going to advance But just to say it's not working, I don't think that's the case. With all the issues we have in crime, we definitely need all the technology that's available if we use it properly, because we have too many victims in Detroit, in this nation, especially our community, that's hurting, and they want closure. They want investigation. They want to identify these perpetrators, and that's what we're trying to do to the best of our ability with the tools, the resources, just like DNA. There was issue with that when it came about. So the change is there. Police officers used to resist the body camera. Now they embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to let our other two panelists comment on this, but I just also want to tell my listening audience, if you would like to make a comment or if you have a question, if you press *9, that will raise your hand and that will give you an opportunity to be able to ask your question if you press *9. Thank you. Commissioner Jones.
Yes, thank you very much, President Brenda Jones, and also acknowledging my Police Commission Chair, Mr. Bell, and I completely concur. And he laid out a very good case about the proper usage of the technology and also about the proper policies that come along with it also, so that way in the event that there are any issues with those policies, we can identify those issues and we can make a correction on the issues as well. The one thing we definitely want to remind everybody about is that the Board of Commissioners we are also citizens of the city of Detroit. We're also a fabric of this community. So these things that we are engaged in where policy is concerned impact us also in the most personal way also, except we have the opportunity to be able to affect those changes even more readily. There's another thing that I would like to bring up, and this is based upon my participation in events downtown as well as the events on 6 Mile. Something that we have to deal with is that we have an element that has engaged our community that's feeding on the fears, feeding on bad history, to inflame our people to do things and to say things that we both know and we all know that are not right, such as the rumors that got started about what happened on 6 Mile, such as the different events concerning even Mr. Floyd and his circumstances, such as the protests downtown Detroit. There are people that are here that are not here for the purpose of being able to further our community. They're here to destroy our community. And the one thing that we have to be conscious of is that we must band together to make sure that they experience zero success in being able to take down Detroiters and to take down the city as a whole. So that's something I thought that needed to be brought to the table and to be mindful of. We've got an element in town that they're busy doing the devil's work as opposed to the work that we're fighting to do for the citizens of our city. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, and I'm glad you brought that up. You know, people ask me, what do you think about protests? People think I don't believe in protests, which is not true. I believe in any peaceful protest. I believe in I'm going to say it again, in any peaceful protest.
Yes.
People say, what do you think about Black Lives Matter? Really? I am Black. I am a Black life. I've been Black all my life, and that's all I know is how to be Black. I don't know anything else. And I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. I was born in Jim Crow neighborhood, okay? I was brought to Detroit because I asked, why do we say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, to people that don't look like us? Do I know anything about racism? Are you kidding me? And it's 2020 and we're still dealing with it. You know, how sad. How sad. So yes, I know about Black Lives Matter. Yes, I do. In protest, I was a union president before I came to this life. We did a lot of protesting.
Yes.
A lot.
That's right.
But then with protesting, you also have to have changes. And you have to make laws to have those changes. You have to have the policies there. So yes, I believe in it all, but I think it has to be done peacefully. You don't have to tear things down.
That's right.
When you tear down, it's your community that's being torn down, and I'm proud of the Detroiters who came out to say it's not happening here.
Amen.
Take it back to your community if that's what you want to see happen, because it's not happening here. I'm so proud of our Detroiters. Ms. Engelman.
Yes.
Your time.
Yeah, it is. The thing that troubles me is that with all this technology, we are still fighting the same situation, not just in Michigan, but in a lot of other states. And that's where you've seen the protests coming out saying we can't take it anymore. You know, and I guess my thing is in regards to the oversight, even with MCOLs having, you know, where the governor's added 3 new constituents, community members to be on there. You know, it is so upsetting to see. I've gone to 7 protests, by the way, and 3 of them were in Detroit, and they were pretty peaceful. But there were certain groups of people that weren't part of the protest, but were completely armed, and they weren't the police. And so there was a nervousness at some of these protests that I went to. But I just really do think that we're moving in the right direction, but we're still talking about the same issues. We're still dealing with the same police brutality. It's not all of the cops, of course not, but there is a culture that needs to be addressed. And I think that's going to be addressed through training from our recruits on up. And I think that, you know, it's these conversations are very critical, and we're going to have to keep making them. And I think that when we talk about this younger generation, when I went to the 7 protests, every single leader that was leading the protests were the younger generation. And so I think there's a new movement coming around. And I don't think there's going to be as much tolerance of this kind of behavior, but it still troubles me that there are people that are not arrested in these murders. There are police officers not arrested. And that's just not okay. So we still have a lot of work ahead of us. And
we do. We have a lot of work done. I see some hands raised, but as I see these hands raised, I thought about an incident that happened with me. When you talk about Black Lives Matter, and I always say, yes, Black Lives Matter, I say all lives matter. And when we talk about police looking like the community that they represent, I thought about a situation that happened with me a few years ago. And I was in Madison Heights at the theater. I went to the theater. As you all know, we used to have a theater down at the Renaissance that we no longer have. And so I went to see Selma. How coincidental. I went to see Selma. It was on a Sunday. I had been working and I wanted to go and see Selma. So I went to the theater out in Madison Heights. I got out of the car. I was in my city vehicle. I have asthma really bad. I had my handicap sticker on the windshield hanging down. I went in, and as I went into the theater, I seen a police car circling, doing no big thing. So the police officer said to me, I came out because they had sold out of tickets. And the police officer said to me, are you here on business or pleasure? And I thought he was joking, right? And it was a white police officer. And I said both, and I kept walking. And I got around to my vehicle. The police car drove around to the vehicle and blocked me in. I'd not even gotten the key in the ignition, and he asked me for my driver's license and my registration. Being a city vehicle, you know, I had to go into the glove compartment to get the papers out of the vehicle. He again said, is this business a pleasure? And I'm thinking to myself, is he serious? You know, he's asking me, is it business or pleasure? And then I asked him, why are you asking me for my driver's license and my registration? Now, I'm not even started the car up at this point. He took the driver's license and the registration back to his vehicle. In about 3-4 minutes later, he came back and he handed it to me and didn't say anything. I was really baffled. I mean, because I'm wondering, what was all of this about? And I ended up going to the Madison Heights police station. I was afraid myself because I was afraid to move because I said, if I move this vehicle, will he say I did something illegal? You know, because I don't even know why he's going through all of this with me. Went to I called and asked for a supervisor. I made the call to ask for a supervisor, and they said the supervisor was not available. I went to the Madison Heights police to make a complaint, and he said to me, I can't drive my police vehicle to the theater. And I'm thinking, really? Why is he telling me all of this? I mean, I've done absolutely nothing. But I guess I was driving while black, and he didn't know. He asked me, what department did I work in? I wasn't trying to answer any questions for him because, again, I'm not moving the vehicle at all. I went to the Madison Heights police, asked for a supervisor. They asked me, why did I need a supervisor? I told them I wanted to make a report, and I wanted to talk to the police supervisor. They said I could give them the information. I said, no, I want to talk to a supervisor. I made a report. But they ended up telling me that the officer said that he didn't ask me, was it business or pleasure? He stopped me because he didn't know if I was driving the vehicle legally. He thought the handicap sticker could have been my parents' or my grandparents' handicap sticker. I'm thinking, really? I just could not believe it. And I said, you know, his punishment should be, he should have to go in the theater and sit right next to me and watch Selma as I watch it. You know, because I could not believe, you know, this is crazy. But because I'm an African American, he's stopping me. And they said, well, we often have people stealing vehicles out here and they're here at the theater. And I'm saying, really? So I done stole a city-owned vehicle, and I'm driving it out to the theater, and I'm parking it with a handicap sticker. I couldn't believe it. So we have situations that occur every day, all of the time, in different areas. And so, yes, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter when we're dealing with these police incidents. We have callers on the line. I'm going to ask my staff if you can assist me with the caller that came in first.
Yes, Madam President, that's caller last 3 digits, 670. 670, you are unmuted.
670. Please ask your question or give your comment.
Is that me here? This is Minister Fuquay Bay. And can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I've been on the line listening to some of the conversations that have been taking place, and I was on San Juan also. Matter of fact, I was called because of the protest to see if there was anything that I could provide to help calm the people down. Also, when Commander Hayes and Deputy Chief Edison called some of the community leaders downtown when they started having the protesting downtown to see if we could help calm some of what was going on, help to calm it down. What I would like to say is this: you're right. We have people coming in to the city with certain narratives. Anytime you get a bunch of people together, it's emotionally charged atmosphere, it is easy to turn it into a very chaotic atmosphere. So you need to be able to weed those people out. And we were working on strategies to do just that, to help get some of these people that were here to ignite other citizens and people that wanted to do quiet protests together. And we need proactive situations like that. I heard about what happened in regards to let's get the video out. Let's get the video out. Like, that's a good narrative. The only reason let's get the video out because it came out in favor of the police. See, it came out in that favor. So let's be real about that. Because if it had not came out
in favor of the police, it wouldn't have been about let's get the video out. Let's get the video out. It'd been let's get conversation out. So the reason why we even have cameras and we have to go through all this is because it's a certain mentality that the police have. It's a certain mentality. It's a gang mentality. And that's the way young people see it. That's the way old people see it. Also, it's a gang type of mentality. It's not a let's preserve the peace. We all family. What can I do? They're public servants and they're to help preserve the peace in the community, not come in and break the peace. So we need to even look at how do we even have to come into cameras and body cams? And we got to be real about this. Police know how to cut off body cams. They know how to say it was malfunction. There's no consequences for those type of situations. They know how to maneuver themselves in front of the cameras that's on the police cars. It's no consequence for them. So due to the fact it's no consequence, what's the purpose in having them if, in fact, the policies that are not in place, there's going to be consequences. When we talk about consequences, one of the things is that we should be considering is have monetary consequences for them. Anytime you start to affect a person's livelihood, they're more apt to listen and more cautious in what they do. Madam President, you spoke about how somebody approached you. We got to understand this. We got people out here that's just haters. They're just haters. It has nothing to do with how you look. They just haters. And we need to get away from the color game because the color game is white supremacy. Anytime we get to talking about black and white, and I heard these narratives, where all these white people come from in the city to break the peace. That's not the case at all. When Brother Martin Luther King walked across that bridge on Bloody Sunday and they got all of us, when he came back the second time, he had the so-called white people with him and wasn't a drop of blood shed. He didn't say, I just want all my so-called black people to come. When the call went out, everybody came because of the injustices that exist. So wherever there are injustices that exist, we need to know more about our history. When we came from the South to the North, we got to know who also helped us in doing that. It wasn't everybody that so-called black faces. It was people that were dedicated to what we call the American dream and justice. So we must let justice prevail regardless to how you look. It's what your principles are. Because everybody that look like you ain't with you. And we better recognize that. They ain't with you. I just wanted to
ask you to wrap it up, Fuke, because it is 10 a.m. now, and we have 3 more hands raised.
I'm good. I said what I wanted to say.
And thank you for everything you do. And I wanted the video to come out just so you know, because I've received so many different stories on what had happened. And I wanted the actual truth of what had happened to come out, because I have received 4 or 5 different calls on different stories of what had actually taken place. And I didn't know what had taken place. So thank you so much for calling. If you have to leave, I understand, but I do want to hear at least from a couple of more of our callers. It is 10 a.m. and we're supposed to end this at 10 a.m. If my panels have to leave, please, thank you for being a part of this. I do know we said we would only keep everyone to 10 a.m. I talked for probably 3 minutes longer than I should have, but I just would like to hear just from at least a couple of more of our callers. If you could release our next caller, please.
Yes, ma'am. Our next caller is going to be called with the last 3 digits, 682. 682, you are unmuted.
Thank you, 682. If you can be brief, if you have a question, please have you ask your question or be brief with your comment. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. This won't take that long. I just wanted to say that my name is Letty X. McCall. Is there anything I can do? I'm in school full time with my doctoral degree, but is there anything I can do to assist in prevention of loss of life? That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, caller 682. Thank you.
Our next caller, Madam President, the last 3 digits are 370. 370, you are unmuted.
370.
Hi, everyone. Hi,
Good morning.
can you hear me?
You can be brief with your comment or ask your question, please.
Okay, can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Franklin Long. I am one of the organizers, and I'm glad for what I hear. I learned a lot. I definitely, wow, it's some of the stuff I was fighting for, I didn't even know that already exists. I don't know what to say, but I need to get a lot more contact information. I learned a lot. So now from this point forward, when I go out there and lead, I was just at Harper Woods for Priscilla Slater. I go all kind of places, and I am with the team that's downtown. I am one of the guys. Again, my name is Franklin Long on Facebook, open publicly. I challenge, and I'm so glad he's the guy before me. He said that, and I don't understand that. People just, they talk about other races and other sides, like they're pointing the fingers, and it's like, I don't understand. I mean, he made a perfect example, and again, I want to take up too much time, but I need to get some contact information, and yes, I am with that, yes. Anybody who come in there trying to disturb the movement, yes, I kick them out. We get them out as much as we can, but we also got to be real accountability. We act like we don't have some thugs that do live in Detroit. We act like we don't have some people, because I've seen them, I've led some, and as we walking through the neighborhood, some take that when we say, F the police, even though we just saying words, and we're just fed up. Let's keep it real, we're fed up. Some have took those words and just took it and try to jam it up. And when I see it, and I say, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're showing it because we're fed up. So we're not, it's one thing, words is words. And again, it's frustrating what happened. Nobody touched the people in the Capitol, but they want to damage. I'm one of them. I have heart failure. And I'm one of them who got hit with rubber bullets and sprayed with mace. And I have one knee down, Colin Kaepernick style. It's like, for real? This is what y'all do? I'm one of them. So I've seen the stuff on the news about tearing up stuff, but some of that stuff is a lie. And it's a disgrace with Chief Craig. And like I said, I'm one of them guys downtown. I'll be up under the Black Fist. He called him a hero. How you call him a hero for what he did? So again, I'm Franklin Long. I'm going to stay on the line. I hope you have this conversation more often. I learned a lot more. I'm glad. I mean, again, accountability, and I'm not gonna lie. At first, I was kind of ticked off when I heard you said all lives matter, but you explained it. I'm so glad you did at the end. I'm so glad you did. But that all lives matter, I'm like, for real, did she just say that? But thank you for that. I want to get contact information. I want to work. I agree. We need to be together. We need to be as one. No matter if they from another race or another cross the bridge. It doesn't matter. Whatever it takes, because it's sad. Our own race, a lot of our own race don't even give it. Damn. I have some of them coming after me. You think you all that. So again, I want to exchange contact information. If y'all hear me again, Franklin Long on Facebook. My page is open public. I want to work. I want to end. I don't like the structure. I don't like none of that. I'm trying to make everything peaceful.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I do believe in peaceful protests with all lives. Thank you. Can we get our last caller? And my contact number is 313-224-1245. And although we're not back in the office, we are checking our calls very readily.
The last caller, Madam President, is 534. 534, you are unmuted.
Thank you. 534.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Well, first of all, I do want to thank the last caller for recognizing that there have always been some white people and some black people fighting against slavery and racism since the beginning of time in this country. One of Harriet Tubman's best friends, and Harriet Tubman's has always been a hero of mine, was the white abolitionist Thomas Garrett. And many people risked their lives to help people come to freedom. So, and I think we should be highlighting that history of Detroit as part of the Underground Railroad and people working together to fight against what they thought was evil. Because, when when we talk about outsiders, how do we know who is an outsider? You can't just tell by looking at the color of someone's skin, and we all need to come together to fight racism and the structural inequities in the system. So I think it would be helpful if we even began to have some kind of truth and reconciliation conversations, which I heard have begun in, I know they're doing that in North Carolina in one of the cities. But so I just wanted to make that comment. And then I do have a question about, and the other caller brought up, you know, the proper use of body cams. Well, they need to be turned on to work. And so what are the consequences of an officer not having a body cam video? And should DPD file a case against someone if the police officer who had contact with the individual doesn't have a body cam video? And that's my question.
Thank you. Commissioner Chair, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, ma'am. They face discipline. There are strict guidelines within that process, and we have witnessed that type of discipline in terms of not utilizing the body camera. So it's there, the policy is there, and the chief is enforcing that.
Thank you so much for that. I want to, and we are like 10 minutes over, I want to thank my panel for staying over 10 minutes. I did want to hear from the public. This has truly been a very fruitful panel. I learned a lot myself. I took notes myself as you guys was talking. I have my notebook, my ink pen. I took notes myself. You know, we have a lot we have to do. I know that's right. I know that's right. We have a lot we have to do. We do have to work together. As the young lady say, yes, there were whites that came to help and came to the rescue for Black people. And so that's why I say, I know all lives matter to me. All lives are important. But as a Black female myself, I have been enduring racism all of my life. I was born into racism, being born in the South and moving to Detroit in 1967 during the riot. My mom lived right in the middle of where the riot was taking place and could not move over to the 6 Mile Livernois area where our street basically had a Jewish community at that particular time. But thank you guys for joining me. I've had nothing but great law enforcement people on here. Again, Bishop Vann, you are the law enforcement preacher. I thank you, Mayor Engelman. I thank you for what you do. The two commissioners, Commissioner Bell, Commissioner Jones, I thank you all so much for the job that you do. Chester Logan, you know, we hate to have seen you retire, but I know everybody has to leave at some point. And you did a good job in the city of Detroit as well as in the city of Highland Park. So thank you for everything you do. You leave a legacy there when it comes to policing. Although you have left the job, your daughter still goes on and do a great job at what she does. So thank you again, Chester Logan, for being with us. My share, Benny Napoleon. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you so much for the job that you do every day. These are people that live in the community, work in the community, do their job in the community, deal with the community all of the time, know exactly what's going on because they are feet on the community people. I see them in the community all of the time. I thank you all. I appreciate you all. So often, that's not said. And I truly appreciate you all for everything you do. We don't always agree, but I know what? We agree more than we disagree. And so thank you for the job that you all do. We could not have the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan, without the roles that you all play. I appreciate you so much. I want to say thank you to our panel. Again, I want to say thank you to the listening audience who have been with us this morning. I want to say thank you to those that are on Facebook that are watching. And again, I'll definitely have to always say thank you to my staff, because if it wasn't for my staff, I wouldn't be able to do the job that I do. And so thank you so much. I appreciate you all. I want to ask you all to join me on Monday at 3 p.m. for a special conversation with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson about Michigan's new voting laws. And then on Wednesday, I will give a complete overview of my proposed community outreach ordinance doing live from the table at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, July the 22nd. Please follow me on Facebook or visit my city website at www.detroitmi.gov/Brenda Jones. Let me say, the heat index this weekend will make it seem almost 100 degrees. I say to everybody, please stay hydrated, wear your mask. The numbers are starting to rise. Wear your mask if you are out and about. Do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your friends. We have lost so many lives during this coronavirus, during COVID-19. Stay safe until we meet again. God bless. I love and appreciate you all. We will end this meeting again. Thank you to everyone, and thank you for staying the additional 15 minutes. That shows your dedication. I appreciate you all. This meeting will stand adjourned. Bye-bye.
Sheriff Napoleon.